I'm here to talk to you about my June books that I read this month. So I took part in the Sims-A-Thon, which was so much fun. I originally did film a TBR, but then I had problems with just the video and my computer, so I just decided I'll just wrap it up and you can find out what I read in the end anyway, because I changed my mind on a few of them. How the Sims-A-Thon works, you get this flowchart. And basically you can choose to start on create a sim or choose a household, and then you can work your way down to live mode. There's lots of crazy arrows, so you can kind of just pick and choose which ones you want to do. I actually read 2 books. I was already in the middle of 2 books when June started, and this was a month-long readathon. So the first 2 books I read this month, which I didn't count towards this, were Under the Never Sky, which was a reread for me, so I could just marathon through the series. Because I remember thinking it was really cool and fun and fast, and that's exactly how I felt the second time as well. Also, there were plot points I didn't remember at all, so that was kind of good to revisit. The second book I read from the library is You by Caroline Kepnes, and I enjoyed it alright, but funnily enough I enjoyed the series better. I did see the series before reading the book, so a lot of it was spoiled for me, but it was interesting to see the difference and to get into the head of this character, even though I feel the show does that with the narration really well, and they make him a bit more of a complicated character, which I enjoy. Either way, like, I'm happy I read it. Don't know if I'll continue with Hidden Bodies though. The first prompt I did for the Sims-A-Thon was choose a household, which is to choose a book from late in a series. So for that Phone, shut up! So choose a household, pick a book from late in a series, so not the first book basically. So I decided I'd continue with the Under the Never Sky series and pick up the second book through the Evernight. I was still enjoying, kept going through this. I did like the kind of politics, if that's the right word. Yeah, the politics in this one and the problems that come with leading a group of people. The second prompt was build a house, which is to read a book set in another world, and for that I chose Incarnate by Jodi Meadows. So even after reading this, I'm not quite sure if it is Earth or not, but I knew it was there was a good chance it was. So basically the premise of this is that there are these million souls on this world, planet, wherever they are, that keep getting reincarnated for generations and generations. But then suddenly there's this new soul. So I was very interested in this because that cover is beautiful, but also it kind of sounded reminiscent of The Host, which I loved. And so I was expecting this to be on like alien planet and they're like just souls floating about, but they're actually just reincarnated into like human bodies every time, and they have like this machine to figure out what soul is in which body at birth. And so because everyone's lived multiple lifetimes, they reach as soon as they reach like maturity, like 12, 14, they just go off and do their own life. So it was interesting to see this world, and I'm really interested to continue with this series. And yeah, there was just a lot of surprises, and this was like pretty easy breezy, but also like fantasy, mystery, romance, just all that. And there were like dragons in there that spit like venom, like acid. Like, it was really cool. I want to know more. I enjoyed this. The next prompt I chose is Perfect the Layout, which was to read a book with an interesting format. So I thought the perfect pick for this would be Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and J. Kristoff. So I had tried to read this before and just couldn't get into it, but I decided now was the time. Obviously everyone knows probably by now it's got all the cool epistolary format fun things. I did enjoy this book, especially when we got to see the AI come into play and people just like going insane and stuff. I don't know if I think I will continue with this series, but it's not like high priority at the moment. I think I've read a bit of sci-fi lately, and it's been good, but it hasn't really like knocked my socks off kind of thing. And I don't really know if Gemina follows the same characters or what, but I guess I'll figure that out. I've got it on hold at the library, so we'll see what happens. The next one I chose was Get a Job, and I chose Astronaut, which is read a book set in space. And so I decided to take advantage and read Defy the Fates by Claudia Gray. This is the 3rd book in the Defy the Stars series. I don't know if it has a separate name. And this has a lot of like planet hopping and just drama going on, especially with Abel, who is like a mech, so kind of like a robot kind of thing, and it kind of comes into question whether he is human or not, which is a trope that I love, the whole like robot learning to love and becoming a real person, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if it's just been too long since I've read the first 2 books, but I enjoyed this, but I wasn't like blown away by it. It was very fast, so that was fun, but some of the things that happened I feel like could have gone more into detail. They're just kind of glossed over. But overall, I liked it and the ending was cute. The next prompt I went for was read a cookie, which is to read a book under 200 pages. I thought this would be a good idea to read some of my plays because they just, you can't say, but there's a million. And most of them have at least a few in there. So for this choice I decided to read Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead by Tom Stoppard. This is one I'd heard a lot about. It's kind of an absurdist, crazy take on Hamlet, where it focuses on the characters of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, where they're kind of in the wings and you get to see from their perspective while other things are happening. It's been a while since I've read Hamlet, so I didn't remember much about these characters and that they actually do die in the end and how that went down. So that was a little bit confusing at times. Overall, like, I thought it was kind of like funny and witty and some little like kind of little head nods at like theatre and stuff. I was just really rushing through it though because I was like, yes, it's only like 200 pages and I just want to finish it. And so I enjoyed it, but I think it is one of those things where I really enjoy reading plays in either like a table read format or like a read through, or actually seeing it, because it doesn't always translate. They're not meant to be just read in your head by yourself. So that's kind of a struggle I have. But I'm glad I've read it and I hope to see a production of it soon. Then, because I was getting bored of my job, I decided to change my career to a criminal, which is to read a thriller. So I read the much anticipated, oh my god, I decided to read the much anticipated Verity by Colleen Hoover. I've read many of her books and I was just really dying to read this one. I had to order it online for an exorbitant amount, but it was worth it. I read this in a day and that just doesn't happen. I was sitting there freaking out. I haven't read too many thrillers, but this one had me on the edge of my seat, like especially heading towards the end. There were scenes where like my heart was pumping and I could kind of see where it was going. And I won't spoil anything, but just, you need to read to the end because shit goes down and it kind of leaves you hanging and you don't really know what's going on, but it's great. I loved this book. 5 stars. Then I decided to reach the top of my career track and read Into the Still Blue, which is the last book in the Under the Never Sky series by Veronica Rossi. So I just read a whole series this month, so that's fun. I felt like this one was a bit rushed and just things kind of happened and like could have delved a bit deeper. And just minor spoiler if you are wanting to read this, it has that trope. It has that trope of, oh, they're dead, how sad, and then it turns out they're not dead and they come in and save the day, which is just like a bit of a cop-out. Not that I want the characters to die, it's just don't. But then on the other hand, someone just died mysteriously. But overall, like, it was an okay finale, but I think it's what I find with YA trilogies. I really like the first one. The second one's amazing, and then the third one's a bit lackluster, which I think rings true for this series as well. And then, like any game of Sims, I decided to get married, which is to read a book with an established couple. And I decided to read The Red Scrolls of Magic by Cassandra Clare. I was also wanting to read this for Booksplosion. I wasn't in time for the live show because I got confused with time difference, and also I was just taking my time reading this. Overall, I enjoyed seeing from Magnus and Alec, because like we get to see their relationship in the other books, but we kind of get to see more their perspectives and how their relationship grew. I really enjoyed being in Venice because I was there only a few months ago, and I haven't travelled much, so I'm just like typical tourist, and everything they were talking about I knew exactly what they meant. And that was just kind of a nice magical picture because it kind of resonated a bit more. It was a bit confusing to remember exactly where in the timeline of this, but after watching the Booksplosion show, it's after City of Glass. And there are some fun little things like looking into it about like Aileen and Helen and Johnny Rook that you know about later. But I'm confused about Ragnarfell because I don't remember everything in his timeline because I know it's very confusing. But I'm glad to have read this. It wasn't too long. And I'm excited to see the next book because apparently that one jumps forward, I think, to the end of the Mortal Instruments when they have adopted Max and Raphael. That's another thing. I need to look up the timeline of Raphael. Head on that Shadowhunters wiki. I also think I might reread The Infernal Devices in preparation for Chain of Gold, since I've only read them once, and I'd like to reread them because yay! I want to reread The Dark Artifices probably end of this year, beginning of next year, in preparation for the continuation of the Shadowhunterverse. I don't know how I'm going to keep fitting this girl's books on my shelves because they're just chunky monkeys and there's not enough room. Now I will calculate how many points I received in the Sims-A-Thon. Here we go. All up, if my calculations are correct, I earned 30 points in the Sims-A-Thon. I don't really know how that stacks up against anyone else, but for me this was an insanely good reading month. I read 10 books, which is my best reading month this year so far. I've been a bit hesitant about readathons because I just get a bit stressed sometimes, but I guess it worked out. I really want to focus on prioritising reading because I just get sucked into YouTube or Netflix or just bullshit. And when I could be reading, I have so much to read and it's driving me nuts. And so there you have it, all the books I read in the month of June 2019. See you next time. Bye!